the earlier session on rocks, we have studied in detail about igneous rocks, which is one of the three major types of rocks, the other being sedimentary and metamorphic rocks. This session is devoted to understand the nature and characteristic of sedimentary and metamorphic rocks. Formed through the deposition of sediments by the exogenous agents of erosion such as rivers, streams, wind, glaciers, etc. These agents erode igneous and other rocks exposed on the surface, transport the material and deposit them in low-lying areas, usually shallow seas and water bodies, hence called as aqueous rocks. The deposition of the eroded material occurs in the form of layers. Therefore, they are called as stratified rocks. Deposition of sediment takes place in layers, and each new layer of the deposits or sediments adds to their volume and mass of the rocks. Due to the pressure from above, the underlying layers becomes compact. The rocks consist of layers which are arranged horizontally, one above the other. The process of deposited material being converted into consolidated rock is called as lithification. The layered rocks are important records of past ages. Stratigraphy is the study of sequence, thickness and spatial distribution. The layered rocks are important records of past ages. Stratigraphy is the study of sequence, thickness and spatial distribution. The main process involved in the formation of sedimentary rocks includes weathering, erosion, transportation, deposition, stratification, compaction and lithification. Sedimentary rocks cover about 75% of the surface of the earth. The sedimentary rocks occupy by far the largest part of the present land surface. Sedimentary rocks can be classified on the basis of two major factors, such as nature of process and two, transporting agents. On the basis of nature of process, sedimentary rocks are classified into three types: mechanically formed, chemically formed, thirdly organically formed. Mechanically formed sedimentary rocks. The rocks which are already formed or the pre-existing rocks are subjected to mechanical and physical weathering and erosion. Thus, the rocks are disintegrated or broken into fragments of various size. These are called as fragmental material or the clastic materials, which becomes the source material for the formation of mechanically formed sedimentary rocks. The weathered and eroded material is transported and deposited by various geomorphic agents. These materials are further broken into finer particles due to their mutual collision during the transportation. These materials, after being deposited and consolidated in different water bodies, form sedimentary rocks known as non-clastic sedimentary rocks. These materials are further broken down into finer particles due to their mutual collision during their transportation. Typical examples of mechanically formed sedimentary rocks are sandstone, conglomerates, silt, shale and clay. Chemically formed sedimentary rocks. Chemically formed sedimentary rocks for the most part are precipitated or evaporated from the solution of minerals like salts. These salts may be precipitated by the direct evaporation of the water or by chemical interaction. Sometimes underground water reaches the surface and brings dissolved salts in solution to the surface. The water evaporates on the surface and the dissolved material is left behind to form sedimentary rock. Dolomite is such rock which is a compound of calcium and magnesium carbonate. Chemically formed rocks are also called as non-clastic sedimentary rocks, which are produced from chemical reactions. Some of the chemically active minerals in the rocks are responsible for the chemical weathering. These chemically dissolved sediments in the water are deposited in the water bodies, and subsequent lithification results in the formation of chemically formed sedimentary rocks. Organically formed sedimentary rocks. Organically formed sedimentary rocks are composed of the remains of once living organisms accumulated over long periods of time. The sediments derived from the disintegration or decomposition of the plants and animals are called as organic sediments. These sediments, after being deposited and consolidated, form organically formed sedimentary rocks. On the basis of carbon content, organically formed sedimentary rocks are divided into three categories: calcareous rocks, carbonaceous rocks, and silicaceous rocks. Calcareous rocks. Calcareous rocks are formed due to the deposition of sediments derived from the skeletons and remains of animals and plants, which contain larger portion of lime. The best example of calcareous rocks is limestone. The calcareous rocks are collectively called as carbonates, like limestone is called as calcium carbonate. The rocks having carbonates of calcium and magnesium are known as dolomites, which are less soluble than limestone. Chalk is another form of carbonate rocks. Since limestone is formed of chemically soluble materials and hence are more susceptible to chemical weathering. Though limestone is very weak rock in the humid region because it can be easily dissolved when comes in contact with water, but it becomes very resistant in hot and dry climate. Carbonaceous rocks are dominated by carbonic minerals, which represents vegetation remains. These rocks are formed due to the transformation of vegetation because of their burial during the earth movements. The consequent weight and pressure of the overlying deposits. Coal is the best example of carbonaceous rock. The initial formation of coal or carbonaceous rock is peat, which is dark grey in color. The subsequent form of coal or carbonaceous rocks is lignite, bituminous and anthracite coals with increasing proportion of carbon content. Silicaceous rocks. Silicaceous rocks are formed due to the dominance of silica content. Silicaceous rocks are formed due to the aggregation and compaction derived from sponge and radiolarian organisms and diatom plants. Geyserites are also deposits of silica around the geysers. Sedimentary rocks are classified on the basis of transporting geomorphic agents like running water or rivers or wind, glaciers and sea waves. The agents of transportation obtain different types of sediments and deposit them in certain places where these sediments get consolidated and cemented to form the sedimentary rocks. Based on the transporting agent, sedimentary rocks are classified into argillaceous, aeolian, glacial rocks. Algeraceous rocks. Algeraceous rocks are formed in water and therefore they are also called as aquaceous rocks. Aquaceous rocks are called as argillaceous rocks because of the dominance of clay in the rock. In Latin, the term argil means clay. Argillaceous rocks are characterized by their softness. On the basis of place of their formation, they are divided into three subtypes as marine algeraceous, lacustrine argillaceous, that is the sediments formed in the lakes, and riverine argillaceous, that is deposits in the riverbeds. Aeolian sedimentary rocks are formed due to the deposition of sand brought down by the action of wind. Glacial rocks are formed due to the deposition and consolidation of glacial deposits called as till deposits or moraine. The material for the sedimentary rocks is derived from the pre-existing rocks. Therefore, they are called as secondary rocks. The sedimentary rocks contain layers or stratas. They are therefore often called as stratified rocks. Most of the sedimentary rocks are permeable and porous in nature. Sedimentary rocks are fossiliferous in nature. That is, sedimentary rocks contain fossils. Sedimentary rocks are generally associated with water bodies. Hence, they are called as aqueous rocks. In comparison with igneous and metamorphic rocks, sedimentary rocks are soft in nature and hence they can be easily weathered and eroded. Sedimentary rocks are characterized by different sizes of joints. These joints are generally perpendicular to the joint planes. Sedimentary rocks are commonly show ripple marks. Sedimentary rocks are formed over largest surface area of the earth. That is, nearly 75% of earth's surface is covered by sedimentary rocks. However, they constitute only 5% of the earth's crust. They are more important in terms of extent and not for the depth in the earth crust. The term metamorphose means change in form. Metamorphic rocks are those rocks which are formed due to the changes in the form of igneous or sedimentary rocks. Sometimes previously formed metamorphic rocks are again metamorphosed. These rocks are transformed or modified igneous and sedimentary rocks, and their form and other characteristics have been altered due to the pressure and heat. Metamorphic rocks include rocks that have changed either in form or composition. The form and composition of a rock may change during the process of metamorphism, but there is no disintegration or decomposition in the rock. The physical metamorphism, the rock undergoes changes in the textural composition. Chemical metamorphism leads to the changes in the chemical composition of the rock. When already formed metamorphic rocks are again metamorphosed, the process is known as remetamorphism or polymetamorphism. If the igneous rock is metamorphosed, it is called as orthometamorphism. When sedimentary rocks are metamorphosed, it is called as parametamorphism. After metamorphism, become harder than the original form, such as marble from limestone and quartzite from sandstone. Marbles and quartzites are relatively more resistant to erosion. Fossils of sedimentary rocks are destroyed in the process of metamorphism. Metamorphism denotes changes or modifications in the pre-existing rocks. The agents of metamorphism sometimes operate individually and sometimes collectively. The agents responsible for the formation of metamorphic rocks are heat or temperature. It is the most important factor for the development of metamorphic rock from the pre-existing parent rock. The mineralogical composition entirely changes due to intense heat. As we know, the temperature increases as the depth from the surface of the earth increases. At certain depth in the interior of the earth, the temperature is so high that it will result in the melting of the rocks to form magma. The required heat for the metamorphism is available during volcanicity, when hot molten magmas ascend through the crustal rocks. Compression and pressure. Compression resulting from endogenetic forces causes folding in the rocks. The resultant pressure form the compressive forces, and subsequent folding changes the form and composition of the pre-existing rocks. This factor becomes operative during the fold mountain building activity. Chemically active agents. Chemically active hot gases and water, while passing through the rocks, change their chemical composition. Magmatic water and water confined in the beds of sedimentary rocks also help in introducing chemical changes in the rock. The Earth's crust comprises of rocks which is made up of minerals. The minerals in the rock react with each other under the influence of temperature, pressure and chemically active fluids to form different minerals, resulting in the formation of new type of rock which is a metamorphosed form of the pre-existing rock. The process of metamorphism can be classified on the basis of agents or on the basis involved in metamorphism. On the basis of nature of agents of metamorphism like heat, the resultant metamorphism is called as thermal metamorphism. When the agent is pressure, the metamorphism is termed as dynamic metamorphism. When the metamorphism is due to water and heat, it is called as hydrothermal metamorphism. When the process of metamorphism is localized in an area, the metamorphism is called as dynamic metamorphism, whereas it is termed as regional metamorphism when it occurs over a larger area. Hence, the time of metamorphism includes contact metamorphism or thermal metamorphism. Process of metamorphism is called as contact metamorphism because of the fact that metamorphism occurs when the rocks comes in contact with ascending intruding magma. This process is also called as thermal metamorphism because the rocks are modified in their forms due to high temperature of intruding magma. Such metamorphism occurs during volcanic activity when the physical properties of the surrounding rocks are changed due to the intense heat of the rising magma. When the extremely hot molten magma or lava comes to the surface of the earth, it passes through joints, fissures in the rock. The rocks coming in contact with hot magma or lava gets baked. For example, limestone changes into marble, sandstone changes into quartzite, regional or dynamic metamorphism. When the rocks are altered or modified in an extensive area, the process is called as regional metamorphism. Such metamorphism is also known as dynamic metamorphism because pressure plays important role or dominant role in the alteration of form of the rock. The sedimentary rocks are folded due to the compressive forces during the period of mountain building. Dynamic metamorphism leads to recrystallization of the rocks, and if the rocks are already crystallized, they are recrystallized. Example, granite. Regional metamorphism is associated with the earth movements and processes such as mountain building. Hydrometamorphism. Hydrometamorphism takes place when the chemically active water passes through the pre-existing rocks. There occur several chemical changes in the rocks due to various chemical reactions. Sometimes the storage of immense volume of water in the large reservoirs exerts high pressure on the underlying rocks. Thus, the rocks are altered forms due to the pressure of overlying huge volume of water. Such type of metamorphism is known as hydrostatic metamorphism. Hydrothermometamorphism. The minor modifications in the physical and chemical composition of the rocks caused by the weight and pressure of water mass and chemically active hot gases and water vapor is called as hydrothermometamorphism. This type of metamorphism is geographically not very significant. They are secondary rocks formed due to the changes or modification of the pre-existing rocks like igneous or sedimentary rocks. They are formed at or inside the earth's surface. Unlike sedimentary rocks, they are not stratified in nature. Most gneissic metamorphic rocks comprise bands of granular quartz and feldspar. The texture of the metamorphic rocks is the result of recrystallization or conversion of one type of mineral into another. In general, folds and faults, secondary foliation, secondary lineation is prominent in the metamorphic rocks formed under high pressure. Some rocks after metamorphism becomes harder than their original form, like marble. The coarse-grained metamorphic rocks are imperfectly foliated like gneissic rock from granites. Most gneissic metamorphic rocks comprise bands of granular quartz and feldspars. The fossils that are present in the sedimentary rocks are destroyed after their metamorphism. Rocks do not remain in their original form for a very long, but may undergo transformation. One type of rock changes to another type under certain condition in a cyclic manner. This process of transformation of rock from one type to another is called as rock cycle. Rock cycle is a continuous process through which old rocks are transformed into new ones. Igneous rocks are formed when the molten magma or the lava cools down and solidifies. Igneous rocks are primary rocks, and other rocks like sedimentary and metamorphic rocks are formed from the primary rocks. Igneous and sedimentary rocks can be transformed into metamorphic rock. The broken materials or fragments derived out of the igneous and metamorphic rocks form sedimentary rocks. The crustal rocks like igneous, sedimentary and metamorphic, once formed, may be carried down into the mantle through subduction process, when a part of the crustal plate melts down due to increase in temperature in the interior and turn into molten magma, the original source of the igneous rocks. It is thus seen that rock is defined as a natural substance, a solid aggregate of one or more minerals. The Earth's outer solid layer, the lithosphere, is made up of rocks. Though various criteria have been taken to classify rocks, the most popular classification of the rocks is based on the mode of origin. Based on the mode of origin, the rocks have been classified in three types as igneous rock, sedimentary rocks and metamorphic rocks. The source of igneous rock is either magma or lava, which cools and solidifies to form the rock. The igneous rocks are the first one to form on the Earth's surface and hence called as primary rocks. Sedimentary and metamorphic rocks are called as secondary rocks. Sedimentary rocks are formed from the sediments derived from the weathering and erosion and deposition of igneous and metamorphic rocks. Sedimentary rocks are rich in hydrocarbons like coal, petroleum and natural gas. Metamorphic rock is the outcome of the transformation of pre-existing rocks. The pre-existing rock may be igneous or sedimentary rock. When subjected to intense heat and pressure, the mineralogical composition is altered to form into a new type of rock, which is called as metamorphic rock.